Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Capital Carnage. I am Ken Carnage, and if you've been following along with me, you know that we're coming close to the end of the Bill of Rights. I have been working on the layouts for the projects that are going to follow the Bill of Rights. I'm excited about them. I'm not going to tell you about them just yet, but just know that I do have something fun, historical, and in many cases educational coming your way when we finish up with the Bill of Rights. But for today, we're going to talk about the Ninth Amendment to the Constitution. This one's short, sweet, but so very, very important. The Ninth Amendment of the Constitution reads, the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be constructed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. In layman's terms, this is saying that yes, we have constructed the Constitution. We have highlighted these rights as rights that the government is not allowed to infringe upon. These are the rights that are the people's, granted to them by God. If you are religious, if you're not religious, then simply that they are inalienable human rights. Okay, either way, they're the rights that the government are not supposed to tear apart, despite the fact that they did. Okay, however, this amendment states essentially that they're saying yes, while we highlighted these rights, that does not mean that there are no other rights. So basically, they're leaving the door open for future amendments, and for this idea that okay, and it's one of those things where it's, and in some ways this causes a problem later on with certain things, but in other ways it's brilliant. And here's the thing, if you've had political conversations, I'm sure you've heard somebody say this before. They say, well, that's not a right. It's not listed in the Constitution. Okay. Well, this says that, believe it or not, I'm guilty of making that argument. But this dictates that just because something's not listed in the Constitution does not necessarily mean that it is not a right. Which means if you're using that argument, you need to be able to make a better argument. And again, that's an argument that gets made by people when perhaps they have not done as much constitutional study, because obviously when you get to this point, you come to realize that instead of saying it's not in the Constitution, it's not a right, you have to make your case based on the fact that nobody has the right to the services of another person. Nobody has the right to take that which they did not earn, or nobody has the right to take away someone else's freedom or life without just cause. So you going down the line, this one essentially it opens up the door to protect more than just what they named. I have a feeling that this one was essentially, them sitting around, well, what other rights do we want to protect? Just put something in there that says that we're allowed to add more and fucking go to bed. That was Madison and Jefferson right there. I don't know which ones, but that is essentially what this Ninth Amendment does, is it leaves the door open for other rights to be protected other than just the ones that are named in the Bill of Rights. And it says that they're not, it essentially says that no one right is more important than the others. I would say that's a matter of opinion. I personally think that several of our Bill of Rights are numbered in a way that really does outline their importance. I mean, I'm of the belief that there's a reason freedom of speech is number one, because because I honestly I believe it's the most important one. Like I look at that and I'm like, yeah, this is number one for a reason. Now maybe that's not what they had in mind when they wrote it, or maybe it is, and whoever added the Ninth Amendment just didn't agree. I could not tell you that. I can tell you that this opens up the door for the Constitution, for the rights protected by the Constitution to be expanded upon, and it's a it's one of those ones where you ask yourself, why did they feel the need to put this in? And of course, the whole reason why they put this in was because they were trying to see. People say the people say the Constitution is a living, breathing document, which first off sounds stupid, but what they mean by that is that it can be changed. And yes, it can be changed, but it can only be changed if certain criteria are met. The idea behind the idea behind this was that yes, we're going to grow as a people. We're going to change as a people. We're going to, the founding fathers, they may not have been able to foresee every problem, every conflict, every issue that we future Americans were going to fight about. They may not have been able to see all of that. I would say they imagined quite a bit. I would say that much, but they believed they weren't going to be able to think of everything, because I mean, how are they supposed to know what's going to happen, 260 years, 300 years down the road? They can guess. That doesn't mean they'll be right. So one of the things that this was meant to do was meant to leave it open for the people to be able to adjust this as time went on. And there are lots of people who want to make lots of changes to the Constitution. And you need, what is it, 2/3 of the states to vote on it in order to make a change to the Constitution. So it takes quite a bit of unity. It takes a lot of people agreeing. And this is one of those things that, you have the, as far as changing the Constitution, the question becomes is, should it be the representatives voting on something like that, or should it be something that we do a special vote and it goes out to the people? I mean, personal opinion, I think it's probably best that it go out to the people in many cases, but we have representatives for a reason, so it's a back and forth type of deal. But in either case, I've gone off on a tangent, please excuse me. The Ninth Amendment of the Constitution, as I said before, it states, the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be constructed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So again, as I said, what that essentially means is, yep, these are the rights we talked about, but those aren't the only rights you've got. So the other rights you've got are protected too. But they're not specific about what the rights are, which has led to things like, has led to people claiming certain things are right that are not technically a right. Like, for instance, I just had this one the other day. You have driving is a right. No, it's not. Freedom of travel is a right. Freedom of travel is absolutely a right. But driving is not a right. Driving is a privilege. It's a privilege that's easily taken away. Okay, your license can be taken away. Your car can be taken away, despite the fact that you bought it. Okay, so driving itself is not a right, but you have the right to travel. You have the right to bodily autonomy. You have the right to move yourself about. So whether you choose to do that with public transit, by walking, bicycling, horseback, car, you have options on how to do so. But the freedom is the freedom of movement. So driving in and of itself is not a right, not constitutionally, not in general, because it's not like you turn 16 and they're like, okay, you have the right to drive. No, you gotta pass a test. You gotta, you gotta pay a bunch of money and whatnot. And it's it's not one of the things people like to do is when they want to make an argument for something, they want to just call it a right. No matter what it is, they want to call it a right because they feel like if they believe that if they call it a right, you can no longer argue with them. Which is, generally speaking, is a fairly dangerous line of thought when you think about it, because you think about the things that people can start calling rights that are extremely dangerous, whether to themselves or to other people. And if we actually acknowledge those things as rights, we will see the complete and utter demise of our society. But again, that is a tangent for another time. As I said, the Ninth Amendment, it is essentially saying, hey, you've got other rights. We may have missed them. Those are protected too. Okay, we're done. I really do feel like this amendment was an effort by the founding fathers to say, hey, in case we missed any, we put this one right here. But in either case, that is it for today. Thank you for joining me. I am Ken Carnage, and until next time, always, always remember, si vis pacem, parabellum.